The sun was barely up when the parade ground filled with hundreds of soldiers standing in straight lines, boots pressed to the ground like they had grown roots. The wind carried the sharp smell of dust and sweat. Above, flags flapped in rhythm, as though the sky itself was watching. General Rana walked down the line, tall and proud, with a row of medals shining on his chest. He had a cold face like stone, and his boots hit the ground with the sound of control. Every soldier stood straight, raised their hand, and saluted him as he passed. Every soldier except one. Her name was Anya. She stood in the third row. From the right, her boots were polished. Her uniform was clean, but her hands stayed by her side as the general stepped in front of her. The soldiers around her noticed instantly. Their eyes widened. One of them blinked rapidly, as if what he was seeing couldn't be real. General Rana stopped. He stood just inches from Anya. His voice was calm but sharp like glass. "Is there a reason, soldier, why your hand is not raised?" Anya didn't answer right away. Her heart thudded in her chest like a war drum, but her face didn't show it. She looked straight ahead, eyes fixed on the mountains in the distance. "I did not forget, sir," she said quietly. There was a long silence. The general took a step closer. "Then why didn't you salute?" Her jaw tightened. For a moment she thought about saying everything right there in front of the entire battalion, but not yet, not here. Instead, she said, "Respect must be earned, sir." Murmurs rushed through the rows like a wave. One of the officers coughed sharply to try and stop the noise. Anya stood still. Her face was unreadable. General Rana's eyes narrowed. His hands remained behind his back, but his voice was colder now. "You've made a dangerous choice, soldier." Anya nodded once. "I know." Later in the barracks, the mood was tense. Some soldiers avoided looking at her. Others whispered. Behind her back, her best friend, Iqbal, sat on the edge of her bunk, frowning. "What were you thinking, Anya? That was suicide. You insulted the highest-ranking officer in the army in front of everyone." She sat quietly, taking off her boots. Then she opened the small locker by her bed and pulled out an old photograph. It was torn at the corner, and the colors were fading. It showed a man in uniform, his arm around a younger Anya, both smiling at the camera. Her father. "I did it for him," she said. Iqbal looked at the photo, then back at her. "You never talk about your father. I don't need to." His story was erased anyway. They buried it, all of it. "What are you talking about?" She hesitated. Then she leaned in close. "My father served under General Rana, years ago. He led a mission that went wrong. He and his team were stranded behind enemy lines. He called for backup. Rana never sent it." Iqbal's eyes widened. "That's not in the records." "Exactly. The records say it was enemy fire, but I've seen the truth. I found his letter. He wrote everything before he died. He was betrayed." "Why now, Anya?" "Because the general is being honored this week. A new medal." "Another lie. I'm going to stop it. That's madness." "Then let madness speak, because silence hasn't helped." That night, Anya stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, not in words, but in the quiet lessons he left behind. The way he carried his gun with respect. The way he helped junior officers, even when he was exhausted. The way he came home from war, not proud but haunted. She was only 13 when she saw the crack in his voice. He never blamed anyone, but he never trusted Rana again. In the morning, Anya opened the letter again. She had hidden it inside the lining of her uniform. The handwriting was rough, shaky, as though written in pain. "If you're reading this, I didn't make it back, but I need you to know the truth. It wasn't the bullets that killed us. It was the silence. We called for help 3 times. The general heard us. He chose not to answer. We were considered expendable. I knew we were being left behind. I saw it in his eyes during the briefing." Anya closed her eyes. She could still feel the words pressing against her heart. Her father had died waiting for orders that never came, waiting for help that was denied. She looked at the line that mattered the most. "Speak if I can't, stand if I fall." She burned the letter right then, letting the ashes float out the window, but she had memorized every word. She didn't need the paper anymore. The truth was inside her now. 2 days later, Anya stood outside the general's office waiting. She had requested a meeting under official protocol. He had accepted, probably out of curiosity or pride. Inside, the room was filled with war, medals, polished wood furniture, and the cold smell of power. He motioned for her to sit. She didn't. "You asked for this meeting. Speak." Anya's eyes didn't leave his. "Do you remember Major Arjun Kapoor?" The general raised an eyebrow. "That name is from long ago. He was my father." The room fell silent. "I read his letter," she continued. "I know he called for help. I know you didn't send it." He stood up slowly, pacing behind his desk. "There are many reasons why missions fail. Not all truths are simple, but some lies are," she snapped. He turned to her. "Careful, soldier." "I am already past careful." The general looked at her for a long moment. "If you had a family, you'd understand. The cost of command? Sometimes you let 10 die to save 100. He wasn't one of 10, she said. "He was my father." She turned and walked out before he could say another word. She didn't need to hear it. Nothing he said would erase what had been done. Back in her quarters, Iqbal was waiting. Well, we didn't deny it. Not really. So what now? We expose him. Iqbal looked around nervously. You realize that could get you Then I'll be court-martialed. But I won't salute a lie. That night, Anya made a choice. She opened her old trunk and took out her father's badge. It was dusty but still sharp-edged. She pinned it inside her jacket, close to her heart. Then she stared in the mirror. The reflection showed a soldier, a daughter, a storm that had been quiet too long. The next morning, the entire battalion was assembled again. General Rana stood on the podium, preparing to speak. Cameras were set up. This ceremony would be broadcast across the nation. Medals, speeches, celebration, but Anya had something else planned. She stood in formation, waiting, breathing slowly. Iqbal gave her a small nod from across the square. The national anthem played. Soldiers raised their hands. General Rana stepped forward. My fellow soldiers, today we honor bravery. His voice was smooth, confident, but Anya didn't hear the words. She heard the silence her father died in, the silence she had lived in, the silence she was about to break. When her name was called to come forward for a separate commendation, she walked up the steps with steady feet. The general extended his hand. She didn't take it. Instead, she turned to the microphone. There was confusion, murmurs. I won't accept this medal, she said, voice steady. Not from the man who let my father die, gasps. Cameras zoomed in. General Rana froze. My father was Major Arjun Kapoor. He called for backup during Operation Firewind. He was ignored. The truth was hidden, but I remember, and I will not salute a betrayal. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. And then the crowd went completely silent. The silence from the crowd was heavy. Some stood frozen, others exchanged glances, but no one dared to speak. Anya's voice still hung in the air like thunder after lightning. The microphones were still on, the cameras were still rolling, and General Rana was still standing with his hands slightly raised, caught mid-motion, as if someone had pressed pause on him. Anya didn't flinch. She turned her back to the general and faced the hundreds of soldiers standing before her. When he'd left them behind, my father and his men. He lied, and then he wore medals on their bones. Her voice didn't crack. It didn't shake, but it carried pain deeper than the crowd could measure. Her words were soft, but they struck like gunfire. Behind her, the general took a step forward, and the microphone picked up his slow breath. Soldier, you are out of line. Anya turned. Then punish me, but do not erase the truth. The senior commanders sitting nearby looked at each other, unsure of what to do. An officer leaned toward the general and whispered something quickly. Rana nodded once and signaled to the guards. 2 soldiers came forward. Anya didn't resist as they approached. Iqbal shouted from the crowd. Wait, she has evidence. The general raised his hand to silence him. This is not the time for rebellion. Anya looked straight at the general as she was led down the stairs. Her hands were not tied, but her fate was tightening around her wrists anyway. Still, she walked tall. Cameras followed her as she exited the ceremony ground, and whispers followed like shadows. By afternoon, the news had spread across military channels. Some stations showed the footage. Others blurred the sound, cutting her words off mid-sentence, but the spark had already jumped. In quiet corners of the barracks, soldiers replayed her words. Some dismissed her. Others stared at the screen and said nothing for a long time. Anya was taken to the disciplinary wing. Not a cell but close. A small room with no windows. A steel table, 2 chairs. A glass panel on the wall that looked like a mirror. She knew someone was watching. Hours passed. Finally, the door opened. A woman in officer uniform stepped inside. Lieutenant Colonel Zara. She placed a file on the table and sat across from Anya. You've caused a mess, she said calmly. Anya didn't respond. Do you want to be a hero? I want the truth to be known. Zara opened the file and pulled out a photo. It was of Major Arjun Kapoor, her father in uniform, smiling. He was respected, even by those who didn't agree. With him, his name still means something. Then why did they let him die like that? Zara studied her for a moment. What you said on that stage? Dangerous. So was silence. Zara leaned back. What proof do you have? Anya looked at her. I had a letter. From him, he wrote everything down. I burned it, but I memorized it. That won't be enough in court. I also accessed the old mission logs. I know which files were deleted. I have audio of the general speaking about it, saying the mission wasn't worth risking more men. Zara raised an eyebrow. You recorded him? Quietly, in his office. Zora was silent for a moment. Then she stood. If what you're saying is true, you just opened the biggest case this army has seen in years. And if it's not, then court-martial me. Zara didn't reply. She walked out without another word. Back in the command room, General Rana stood before a large digital board, surrounded by officers. Some looked nervous. One of them spoke quietly. Sir, the media caught her statement. It's already leaked on 2 private channels. Her name is trending. Civilians are asking questions. Rana stared at the screen. Cut every official link. Tell them it was a mental breakdown. Fabricated grief. An aide hesitated. There are rumors, sir, about Operation Firewind. Some soldiers say the mission was mishandled. Soldiers always talk, Rana snapped, but they follow orders. He turned to another officer. Prepare for internal inquiry. We'll discredit her before she gets a chance to speak again. Outside, Iqbal sat in the mess hall, holding his head. He had watched Anya dragged away. He had stayed quiet because he didn't know what else to do. Now he sat with her notebook in front of him. She had left it in her bunk. He hadn't meant to open it, but the words inside were not personal. They were notes, detailed timelines, names of officers, radio times, command codes. She had been investigating for months. His hands shook. If even half of this was true. He stood quickly and rushed to the comms building. Inside, he found Corporal Samir, a communications tech who owed him a favor. Samir, I need access to old mission audio. That's restricted just for a few minutes. I'll take the fall if they catch us. Samir hesitated, then nodded. 10 minutes. Nothing leaves the room. They pulled up the logs, most were erased. But one file blinked red, but not fully deleted. They played it. A man's voice crackled through the old recording. We're surrounded. For men down. Need evac now. A pause. Then another voice, clear, calm, and familiar. This mission was a risk from the start. Reinforcements will not be sent. Hold your position. Do not repeat this message. Iqbal felt cold. The voice was unmistakable. General Rana. They had denied the team help. On purpose. He left the building with the sound still ringing in his ears. He had to get it out, somehow. But he needed Anya. She was the one with the full picture. That night, she sat alone in the holding room. She hadn't been charged yet, but the silence was louder than a sentence. She closed her eyes, thinking of her father. She remembered the last time she saw him. He was going on a mission. He hugged her longer than usual. She hadn't understood why. She didn't cry then. She was trying to be strong, like him. But now, the tears came quietly. No audience, no camera. Just a daughter, remembering the man who never came back. She whispered, I didn't salute him for you, Papa. I spoke. For you? Outside her room, Zara stood again with the file in her hand. She had reread the old reports. Something about them had always bothered her. The numbers didn't add up. The radio delays. The missing names. She had once asked about it, years ago. The answer she got was cold. Don't dig graves that aren't yours. But now a girl had dared to dig, and the bones were showing. Zara entered the room again. Anya sat up. You'll face an official hearing tomorrow, Zara said. Anya nodded. I'm ready. Are you ready to speak in front of generals who served with Rana? I'll speak wherever the truth echoes. Zara looked at her. If you had power, what would you do? Anya smiled faintly. I'd change who we salute. Zara didn't smile back, but her eyes softened. Get some rest, tomorrow, might change everything. As the door shut, Anya leaned back in the chair. She didn't know what the next day would bring, but she knew this much: her silence had ended. Her voice was loose now, flying like a flare into the dark, and someone was watching it burned out in the early morning. Before the hearing, a quiet knock came at her door. Iqbal slipped inside, eyes wide, breath short. I found it, he whispered. What? The audio, his voice, telling them not to send backup. Anya stood quickly. You're sure? I heard it myself. Samir helped me, but they'll find out soon. Anya's heart pounded. We need to get it into the hearing. I'll bring it, just tell your side. Don't hold back. She nodded. As Iqbal left, she stood alone once more. One truth in her chest, one fire in her eyes. One step closer to the day. Her father was no longer just a memory, but a name that would be spoken again. And behind closed doors, General Rana met with his advisors. They're bringing audio, one warned. The general didn't flinch, but his voice was darker than before. Then silenced them before it's heard. The sky was gray, as if the clouds themselves had come to watch what was about to unfold. The military hearing was not open to the public, but the tension inside the courtroom was louder than any crowd. Rows of high-ranking officers sat at a long table, faces stiff, eyes cold. Behind them, a large screen waited to display evidence. 2 guards stood by the door, their arms crossed tight over their rifles. Anya stood at the front of the room. She wore her uniform, but her father's badge was pinned inside the jacket close to her heart. Hidden, but not forgotten. Iqbal sat behind her, holding a small black audio device in his hands. He had hidden it under his belt and only touched it once to make sure it was still there. His eyes kept shifting toward the officers. He could feel it. Someone already knew. He had it. General Rana entered last. He walked slowly, his medals shining like shields. He nodded to the officers, but his eyes barely glanced at Anya. She stared straight ahead. The lead officer, Brigadier Alam, cleared his throat and began. Today's hearing is to review the misconduct of Cadet Anya Kapoor. She refused to salute a superior officer in public, accused a decorated general of war crimes, and disrupted a national ceremony. There were murmurs around the table. Brigadier Alam continued. Cadet Kapoor, you may speak. Explain your actions. Anya took a deep breath. Her voice was clear. My father, Major Arjun Kapoor, served under General Rana during Operation Firewind. He and his team requested emergency backup after being ambushed. The request was denied. All lives were lost. My father died waiting for help that never came. One officer leaned forward. That mission was recorded as a failure due to enemy advantage. Anya nodded. That's what the report says. But I found a letter. My father wrote it before he died. He said the general knew they needed help, and he chose not to send it. Another officer interrupted. Do you have this letter? No, Anya said. I destroyed it, but I memorized every line. You expect us to take your word? Iqbal stood suddenly. She's not alone. I found an audio file from the mission's comes log. It has the general's voice. He says the mission wasn't worth the risk. The room fell silent. General Rana's jaw tightened. Brigadier Alam stared at Iqbal. Do you have this audio? Iqbal pulled out the device and placed it on the table. Yes, sir. It's here. Before the brigadier could press play, one of the guards stepped forward. That device must be tested for authenticity. The brigadier waved a hand. Later, for now, let's hear what it says. He pressed play. Static, then a voice. This is Major Arjun Kapoor. We're surrounded. Down. Immediate evac requested. A pause. Then the second voice came cold. Calm. Clear. This mission was a risk from the start. Reinforcements will not be sent. Hold your position. Do not repeat this message. Gasps filled the room. Some officers looked at each other. Others turned toward the general. Brigadier Alan paused the recording and stared directly at Rana. Is this your voice? The general didn't answer immediately. His fingers tapped the table. That was taken out of context. Anya stepped forward. What context justifies letting them die? Rana's face hardened. Command decisions are not made with emotion. They're made with numbers. The location was exposed. Sending help could have killed 30 more. I saved lives. But you lied in the report, she said. You never admitted you received their signal. I protected the army's image. You covered your own mistake. Brigadier Alam raised a hand. That's enough. He turned to another officer. Is this the original file from mission logs? Iqbal nodded. Yes, sir. Corporal Samir helped me retrieve it. Rana's eyes flickered. He whispered something to the guard nearest to him. The man nodded and left the room. Alam turned to the panel. We need to take a recess. This matter now involves possible breach of command integrity. Everyone stood except the general. Anya remained still. As the officers filed out, Zara entered the room from the side door. She walked straight to Anya. You did it. Anya looked at her, confused. Did what? You spoke and they listened. That's rare in this place. Outside? The hearing room. The hall buzzed. Officers whispered behind clipped phrases. The news hadn't hit the public yet, but it was coming. The military couldn't hide this much longer. Meanwhile, the guard who had left earlier stepped into a dark office where General Rana waited. Sir, we located Corporal Samir. We've detained him. Good, Rana said quietly. Make sure the original copy doesn't leave the server. Yes, sir? And keep him silent. Back in the corridor, Iqbal tried calling Samir. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. His heart started pounding. He grabbed Enya's arm. Something's wrong. I think they've got Samir. Enya's face turned pale. Then we need to act fast. They rushed to Zara. Ma'am. The only person who helped us, Samir, he's missing. Zara's eyes sharpened. That means they're scared. Good. Let me talk to the brigadier. She turned and disappeared into the upper wing. Inside a side hallway, General Rana sat alone in a glass-walled room, watching the screen in front of him. It showed the paused image of Anya standing on stage during the ceremony. Her words echoed. In his head, she spoke for the dead. He closed his eyes. He remembered that mission, Firewind. He remembered the radio call. He remembered the silence in the room when he denied backup. He had calculated the loss. It was logical. But he hadn't expected Arjun to die. And he certainly hadn't expected his daughter to rise from the ashes 10 years later and point a finger at him in front of the nation. He pressed a button. His aide walked in. Prepare a public statement. I'll speak tonight. Let me control the story before the media does. That evening, news stations began receiving unofficial reports, leaks, audio clips, a copy of the courtroom video. A new name spread across headlines. Anya Kapoor, soldier, daughter, whistleblower. Social media exploded with hashtags. Some called her a liar. Others called her a hero. But everyone was talking about her. In the hearing room the next morning, Anya was summoned again. This time, the officers' faces were more serious. Brigadier Alam spoke first. We have reviewed the audio and the mission files. While the situation is complex, the fact remains that critical information was withheld. During a military operation, he turned to General Rana. Do you wish to speak in your defense? The general stood slowly. I did what I thought was necessary to prevent greater loss. Alam interrupted. That is not what the report said. You erased the call for help. I made a choice. That's what commanders do. And you misled the chain of command. The general looked around the room. For the first time, there was a crack in his voice. I made a mistake. Whispers filled the room. Anya stared at him, stunned. She had waited so long for this moment. For him to admit it, the general turned to her. I won't ask for your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But your father was brave. He deserved better. The brigadier cleared his throat. This hearing will reconvene tomorrow for final judgment. Everyone stood again. Anya walked out, her legs heavy. Iqbal followed her. Did you hear that? He confessed. Yes, she said softly. But the truth came too late for my father. Behind them, someone slipped into the shadowed hallway and made a quiet call. She's winning. The voice on the phone replied coldly, not for long. That night, Anya received a warning. A small paper slipped under her door. Stop, or the next name buried will be yours. Anya stared at the small piece of paper in her hand. Her fingers were trembling, but not from fear. It was something deeper anger wrapped in silence. The paper had no name, no signature, just one cruel sentence. Stop, or the next name buried will be yours. She read it again. Her heart raced, but her face remained still. She folded the paper carefully and slipped it into her boot. If they thought this would break her, they didn't know who they were dealing with. She stood up and locked the door to her room. She moved to her locker and pulled out her father's old badge, still pinned inside the lining of her uniform. Her fingers brushed against the metal. It was cold, just like the system that had let him die. She sat down on the edge of the bed, her eyes locked on the wall. In her mind, the warning note echoed again and again. She was now a threat. That meant she was getting close. A knock came at her door. She didn't move right away. Then another knock louder, double quotes, Anya. It's me, Iqbal whispered. She opened the door and pulled him inside quickly. Don't come here unless you know you're not being followed. He looked at her, surprised. What happened? She handed him the note. He read it once and looked up, his eyes wide. This is serious. I know. We have to tell someone. No, we don't tell anyone. Not yet. If this came from Rana or his people, reporting it won't help. They'll just bury it, like they buried everything else. Then what do? We push harder. Iqbal hesitated. You're risking your life. Anya looked him straight in the eyes. He risked his, and no one spoke for him. I won't be silent. That night, Iqbal left quietly, taking a long route back to avoid being seen. Anya stayed up. She wrote everything. She knew names, dates, details, in a small notebook. She made 2 copies and hid them in different places. If something happened, to her, she wanted the story to survive. The next morning, the hearing room felt heavier. There was something in the air, like everyone knew something was coming, but no one could name it. Brigadier Alam looked tired. General Rana sat with his usual calm face, but his eyes flicked toward Anya the moment she entered. She sat down and waited. Iqbal sat behind her, looking more alert than usual. Before the session began, Zara walked over and handed Anya a sealed envelope. What's this? Anya asked. Last night, someone from Rana's old unit sent this to my desk anonymously. Said it was time the truth was finished. Anya opened the envelope. Inside were several old documents. Her hands shook as she flipped through them. One was a mission debrief from a junior officer who had survived Operation Firewind, but was later transferred and silenced. Another was a personal note written in pencil, barely legible. He begged Rana to send help. He said, we can hold another 10 minutes. Just 10, Rana said. Hold it forever, and walked out. Anya felt like her breath had been knocked out of her chest. She closed the envelope and clutched it tightly. Can I submit this today? Zara nodded. The panel has started asking deeper questions. If you show this, the pressure will become too great for Rana to survive. Anya stood up and walked to the front just as the hearing resumed. Brigadier Alam cleared his throat. Cadet Kapoor, do you have anything else to add before final statements? Yes, Anya said. She stepped forward and handed him the envelope. These are statements and mission debriefs from officers who were part of Operation Firewind. One of them survived and was later reassigned quietly. His report was never included in the official file, but he wrote it, and someone saved it. Alam opened the documents and read the top sheet. His eyes scanned it quickly. The room was quiet, every person watching his face. This changes everything, he murmured out. He turned to Rana. General Rana didn't move. His fingers tapped slowly on the table. This is an emotional attack, he said coldly. A dying man's words. From 10 years ago. You're putting me on trial for a war that no one could have won. No, Anya said. I'm putting you on trial for pretending no one lost. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. You're his daughter, yes. You think revenge is justice? I think silence is poison, and you fed it to the whole army. Brigadier Alam slammed his hand on the table. Enough. He looked around the room. This court will break for 30 minutes. Final judgment will be delivered at noon. Everyone stood. Anya walked out of the room, her steps firm. Iqbal joined her. You did it? He whispered. No, she said. Not yet. He's not done fighting. As they turned the corner, a loud bang echoed through the hallway. People screamed. Officers ducked. Guards pulled out weapons. Smoke filled the corridor from a nearby storage room. Anya grabbed Iqbal's hand and ducked behind a wall. What the hell was that? I don't know, Iqbal said, coughing. Suddenly, a soldier came running down the hall. His face was pale. They tried to destroy the evidence room. Someone planted a bomb. Zara came running next. Everyone stay inside. Do not move. We're under internal lockdown. Anya looked at her. Do they know who did it? Not yet, Zara said. But this wasn't random. Someone wanted the original Firewind files gone. Anya's heart raced. I made copies. Too good, Zara said, because if they're blowing up rooms now, they're desperate. Later that day, the court reconvened, but this time with armed guards at every door. The hearing had turned into something much bigger. Brigadier Alam looked out across the room. Due to new evidence, attempted destruction of military property, and confirmed alteration of mission reports, the following decision is made. He looked at Rana. General Rana, you are hereby suspended from active command, and an investigation into Operation Firewind and the suppression of rescue requests is officially opened. During this process, you are to be removed from all duty. A gasp spread across the room. Rana didn't speak. He didn't blink. He only stood, buttoned his coat, and walked out without a single word. But Anya watched him, and she saw it deep in his eyes. Not shame, not anger, something worse. He still believed he had done nothing wrong. Later that evening, Anya sat in the empty barracks, staring at the last copy of her notebook. The weight on her shoulders hadn't vanished. It had shifted. Her father's name was being spoken again, but so was hers. And she knew when you speak truth in a room that's always been silent, the echo doesn't always bring applause. Sometimes it brings danger. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered it slowly. A deep voice spoke only one sentence. You think you've won, but you don't know who you've just exposed. The call ended. She stared at the phone. It came into the room a few minutes later. You okay? She looked up. Her voice was soft. There's more. This goes deeper than Rana. Someone else doesn't want the truth out. Someone bigger. He sat beside her. Then we find out who. She looked down at her father's badge in her hand. We've just started a war without bullets. And outside, in the far corner of the base, a black car waited. Inside it, a man in a civilian suit tapped on a tablet showing her name. Keep watching her, he said. She knows too much. Night settled over the base like a warning. The air was colder than usual, heavy with the weight of things unsaid. In the far corner of the compound, a black car with dark windows remained parked, its engine off, but its purpose alive. Inside, the man in the civilian suit sat quietly, his eyes fixed on the glowing screen in his hand. Enya's face was there, her file opened beside it, her records, her statements, her connections. He scrolled through every word like they were clues. In a dangerous puzzle, she's not just a threat, he whispered. She's a symbol now. Back in her barracks, Anya sat awake, her legs tucked beneath her, her eyes scanning a paper trail she had hidden from everyone. Evan Iqbal. It was something she hadn't fully understood until now. Weeks ago, when she began digging into her father's old reports, she found a name scribbled beside a mission code. Not Rana, someone else. At the time, she thought it was just an assistant or clerk. But now that name stood out in bold. Director Praveer Singh, Strategic Command, Liaison. She typed the name into her secure tablet. The screen paused, then loaded a brief profile. No photo, just a few words. Civilian Liaison to Defense Intelligence Directorate. Operational rank, confidential. That explained why his name was in her father's file. It also explained why someone was watching her again. She didn't hear Iqbal enter until he placed a hot cup of tea next to her. She looked up, startled. You haven't slept, he said quietly. No, neither have I. He sat beside her and glanced at her screen. Who's that? Someone bigger than Rana. You think he's behind the threats? I think he's behind everything. Rana was just the face. This man was the hand pulling the strings. Iqbal frowned. If he's intelligence, he'll bury you before you get close. Anya leaned back. Then I need to make sure I don't get buried alone. She stood and grabbed her bag. I'm going to Zara now. Yes, if I wait, this will disappear. They left the barracks quickly and moved through the quiet paths between the buildings. The base was half asleep, dim security lights casting long shadows. As they neared the east wing, they noticed two guards walking the opposite direction. Nothing unusual except both wore different uniforms from standard patrol. No badges, no name tags. Iqbal whispered. Those aren't regular guards. I noticed. They reached Zara's office. Anya knocked softly. After a pause, the door opened. Zara looked surprised, but stepped aside quickly. What's going on? She asked. I need your help. Zara closed the door and listened. As Anya explained everything about the name, the connection, the civilian car, the voice on the phone. Zahra stayed quiet for a moment. I've heard the name, she said. Whispers only, never in writing. He's real and dangerous. Do you have access to files? No. People who try don't stay in uniform very long. Then how do we get proof? Zara leaned back. You don't. Not officially, but there's one thing Singh can't erase. What people? Someone worked under him. Someone who knows. Iqbal nodded. So we find someone who served near him. I might know a name, Zara said. Colonel Arav Naik. Retired quiet man. Never promoted past a certain point. Rumor is, he was forced out. Why? No one knows. Anya stood. Then we ask him. Zara scribbled down an address. He lives for hours from here. Small town, no service records after 2017. Iqbal took the note. We leave tonight. Zara hesitated. Take a civilian jeep. Don't use army transport. They nodded and left the room quickly. An hour later, under the cover of darkness, they drove out of the base in a dusty jeep with no plates. Just a forged clearance tag Zara had provided. The road stretched endlessly, the silence between them broken only by the wind through the half-open window. You sure you're ready for this? Iqbal asked. I passed ready days ago. They drove through small villages and sleeping markets until they reached the edge of a quiet town surrounded by hills. The address led them to a small house at the end of a gravel path. Lights were off. The gate creaked. Anya walked up and knocked. Nothing. She knocked again. After a long pause, the door opened slightly. A man in a loose shirt and scarf looked at them through the gap. I'm not taking interviews, he said gruffly. We're not journalists. Anya replied. We're soldiers, and we need your help. His eyes narrowed. Nay, Anya Kapoor. His eyes flickered with recognition. Arjun's daughter. Yes. He opened the door wider and stepped aside. Inside, the house was simple, clean, but lived in. He motioned for them to sit. I served with your father. He was a good man. I know, she said softly. I'm trying to finish what he couldn't. He sighed and sat down slowly. I knew this day would come. She leaned forward. Tell me about Director Praveer Singh. The man closed his eyes for a moment. He's not someone you talk about lightly. He's not in uniform, but he commands more fear than any general. He's been in every major military disaster in the last 20 years. And Sahau always walks away untouched. Did he order? Operation Firewind. I can't prove it, but I remember the day before the mission. Arjun came to me, said the operation had changed suddenly. Support had been reduced. Objectives shifted. He said Singh visited the base that morning, met with Rana behind closed doors. After that, everything changed. Iqbal leaned in. Why would he do that? Firewind was more than a mission. There was something else going on. Intelligence wanted something destroyed. Arjun wasn't supposed to come back. None of them were. Anya's throat tightened, and now he's watching me. Then you're in danger. She stood. I need a statement. Anything. A letter. Your testimony. The man looked hesitant. Please, she said. This is the only way to end it. After a long pause, he nodded. I'll write it. But you have to protect it. I will. They left an hour later with the signed statement hidden under Enya's jacket. As they drove back, the sun began to rise slowly over the hills. But they didn't notice the black motorcycle following them from a distance. Back at the base, Zara waited near the south gate. When they returned, she rushed over. You were gone too long. We got it, Anya said, handing her the paper. Proof. Real proof. Zara read it quickly and nodded. I'll file it into the tribunal system anonymously. But before she could move, an alarm rang out. From the west end of the base, a voice came over the loudspeakers. All personnel to shelter. Unidentified security breach. All access points locked. Anya looked around. Soldiers began running in every direction. The base was under alert. E grabbed her arm. They're coming for the evidence, Zara whispered. We have 5 minutes. She ran with them to the main server room. Inside, she uploaded the document to 4 separate military archives. She pressed a final key. It's done. If they wipe one, 3 more will remain. Then the power cut. All screens went black. And outside, the base went silent. Anya turned slowly toward the window. Through the fence, the same black car sat parked just outside the perimeter, waiting. The silence after the blackout was deeper than night. No orders, no movement, just stillness that pressed against the skin like thick fog. Anya stood frozen by the server room window, staring at the black car parked outside the base. It hadn't moved. The engine was off, but it was watching. Iqbal touched her shoulder gently, and Zara whispered, They're here. Within seconds, emergency lights flickered to life-dim red bulbs along the hallways, casting shadows that danced like ghosts. The server room's door had no lock from the inside. Zara looked around and quickly opened a maintenance panel beneath the desk. There's a service tunnel. It leads under the tech wing. Iqbal climbed in first. Anya followed, heart pounding. Zara closed the panel behind them and crawled into the narrow, dusty tunnel. Above them, boots ran across the floor. A heavy voice shouted, Sweep the floor. She's here. She has the documents. The tunnel was dark and narrow, barely enough for them to move. Rats scurried past, and the smell of damp earth filled their noses. Anya kept one hand on the wall, the other clutching a flash drive. Her fingers were cold, but her mind was racing. How did they get in so fast? She whispered. Zora replied. They were always inside. They just waited for the signal. Iqbal cursed under his breath. So we've been targets since the beginning. After 20 minutes of crawling, they reached a small ladder. Zara pushed open a hidden hatch and they emerged inside a supply shed outside the main compound. The sun was now rising, painting the base in gold, but the mood was far from peaceful. Sirens were off, but soldiers stood at every exit. Unmarked cars lined the outer roads. Drones buzzed quietly overhead. Anya checked her tablet. The file had been sent, archived, secured, but access was restricted. Only top command had the clearance to view it. We need someone to open it, she said. Someone with authority. Zara looked unsure. If we go to command, Singh will know. They'll erase it before it spreads. Anya shook her head. Then we go public. Iqbal turned to her. You mean, media? No, bigger soldiers. The academy, the military academy in Dehradun, was where hundreds of young cadets trained. It was also where many current officers graduated from. If the file reached him, and went viral, Singh couldn't stop it without making it worse. We'll need help, Zara said. Someone from the inside. Anya nodded. I know just who. 2 hours later, they arrived at a civilian rest stop outside the city, a small cafe, mostly empty. Anya sat at the corner table, her cap low over her eyes. Iqbal and Zara kept watch. The door opened. A tall woman in a blue scarf walked in. Her steps were confident, but her eyes searched the room like someone trained for danger. When she saw Anya, she paused, then walked over and sat down. You shouldn't have contacted me, she said quietly. I had no choice. Anya replied. The woman, Major Nivedita Rao, was an instructor at the academy and an old friend of Anya's father. They hadn't spoken in years, but Anya remembered her voice from one place only, a tape from her childhood, where her father had said, Nivedita saved my life once. Anya slid the flash drive across the table. This file will change everything, but I need you to share it. Nivedita looked at the drive but didn't touch it. They'll come for me too. Anya leaned forward. Then let them. You've trained hundreds to fight. Let them see what the truth looks like. Nivedita finally picked up the drive. She placed it into her pocket without a word. You have one shot, she said. After this, they'll call you a traitor. Anya smiled. They already did. That night, inside the main hall of the military academy, Nivedita plugged the drive into a secure projector. She invited every cadet and instructor to gather. Watch this, she said, and decide what kind of officer you want to be. The lights dimmed. The file opened. The room went silent. On the screen appeared the letter from Colonel Naik, then video evidence of the altered mission reports, then Arjun Kapoor's final transmission. We're surrounded. Where's the support? Command has gone dark. Gasps echoed across the room. At the same time, in offices across the base, Singh received a single message from one of his operatives. The file has leaked. We've lost control. Singh's hand trembled slightly as he read the message. Then he stood slowly, adjusted his cuffs, and whispered, then it's time to destroy the messenger. Meanwhile, back at Zara's temporary hideout, Anya sat beside a radio, tuning into military channels. Then, suddenly, her name echoed over the line. Lieutenant Anya Kapoor is hereby suspended from active duty. She is to be detained for investigation under the National Military Code. Any officer aiding her will be charged with treason. Iqbal turned to her. They've declared war on you. No, Anya said quietly. They've declared war. On the truth? Phones buzzed everywhere. Social media feeds filled with video snippets from the academy. Hashtags began trending. Hashtag justice for Arjun. Hashtag voice of a forgotten. Soldiers posted old stories. Families of fallen soldiers began speaking out. In 1 hour, Anya became a symbol of something much larger than herself. But the danger was growing. That night, as Anya sat alone near the edge of the compound, she received a call from an unknown number. She answered, but said nothing. A calm voice spoke. You're brave, Lieutenant. But bravery without control leads to destruction. She replied, You can't scare me? The voice said, I don't need to scare you. I only need to isolate you. Click. The call ended. Then the power went out again. Iqbal ran to the door. They've cut our line. Zara shouted. They're surrounding the building. Anya looked around. There was nowhere left to run. But she didn't panic. She stood tall, then let them come. Suddenly, a knock on the door. Not banging, just one soft knock. Then silence. Zara looked through the peephole. Her face went pale. What? Is it Iqbal? Asked Zahra, turned slowly. It's General Rana. Anya stepped forward, eyes burning. Open the door. Anya walked slowly to the door. The knock still echoed in her ears, but her thoughts were louder. She hadn't seen General Rana face to face since the day she refused to salute him. That day had changed everything. The war wasn't on the border. Anymore, it was inside the system, and now the man she blamed for her father's death stood outside her door. Zara moved to stop her, whispering, he could have soldiers, snipers, it might be a trap. Anya nodded slightly. I know, but I won't hide anymore. She placed her hand on the door handle. Iqbal moved behind her, holding a small blade from the kitchen, just in case. Anya opened the door slowly. There stood General Rana, alone. No soldiers, no weapon, just his decorated uniform and tired eyes. He looked older than she remembered, his shoulders heavy, his face lined with something more than age. Maybe guilt, maybe pride, maybe both. His eyes met hers, and for a long moment, they said nothing, just stared. Finally, Anya stepped aside. If you came here to arrest me, she said, do it quickly. Rana walked in, looked around the dimly lit room, and sat at the small table near the wall. Iqbal and Zara stayed on guard near the door, tense and silent. The general looked at the cracked ceiling, then back at Anya. This place reminds me of my early days. Damp walls, dust, smell of old paint. Soldiers like us weren't given much back then, but we believed in the cause. Anya didn't respond. She stood with arms crossed, staring at him like a judge waiting for the guilty to confess. Rana sighed. You've made quite a mess, Lieutenant. The academy is in uproar. Command is panicking. News channels are sniffing around, and Singh is furious. Anya stepped forward. So you came to clean it up? Rana shook his head. I came to warn you. She laughed, a dry, humorless sound. You're here to protect me now. No, he said. I'm here to protect what's left of this army. His words hung in the air. Then Anya sat down across from him, her face calm, but her voice sharp. You lied to every soldier who ever served under you. You gave speeches about sacrifice, honor, and brotherhood. But when my father called for backup, you turned your back on him. He died thinking you would come, but you didn't. And now you expect me to listen to your warnings. Rana didn't argue. Instead, he slowly pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and slid it across the table. Anya opened it. It was a mission report, dated 1 week before her father's final operation. It showed something she hadn't seen before: her father's own signature, approving the mission despite warnings of ambush. Rana spoke softly. Your father volunteered, even after I told him the risk. He said if he didn't go, no one else would. I begged him to wait. I told him we needed more time. He refused. He said, the mission comes first. Even before me. Enya's hands trembled as she read the paper. Her heart screamed, no, it couldn't be true. All these years she had believed her father was abandoned, that he had been sacrificed for politics. But now this changed everything. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Rana leaned forward. You were a child. You heard only whispers. But I was there. Your father was the best soldier I ever commanded. He died saving a village of children. That's why I kept quiet. I didn't want his memory twisted into some scandal. Anya stood, voice shaking. You still lied. You still hid the truth. He nodded. I did, because I thought I was protecting his name. But I see now I was protecting myself. Zara spoke for the first time. Why come now? Why not say this years ago? Rana looked at her. Because now, everyone's watching. Now, the silence has broken. And I know Singh. He won't stop until he buries every voice that speaks against him, including yours. Iqbal asked. Then, help us. You still have power. The general shook his head. Not anymore. After this, I'll be retired. Silenced, maybe arrested. Anya stepped closer. Then make it count. Testify. Speak on record. Rana looked at her, tired but clear-eyed. I will, but on one condition. She frowned. What? He said. You stop running. You walk into the court, not as a rebel but as a soldier. The room was silent. Anya thought about it. If she walked into that courtroom, she could be arrested, labeled a traitor. Everything could be taken from her. But if she didn't, if she stayed hidden, she'd lose the only chance to speak truth in front of the system that tried to bury her father's name. Her voice could be louder in chains than in hiding. She nodded. All right, I'll stand trial. That night, Anya sat alone under the open sky. Stars blinked overhead like eyes from another world. She held the report in her hands, her heart still torn. If her father volunteered, had she misunderstood everything? Or was he pushed to choose death because he knew no one would come? Suddenly, her phone vibrated. An anonymous message appeared. You walk into that court, and we'll make sure you never leave. She read it twice, then showed it to Iqbal. He took her phone, smashed it against the floor, and said, we go together, no matter what. Morning came with cold wind and gray clouds. At the military court's entrance, cameras lined both sides. Reporters pushed forward. Soldiers stood stiff, unsure whether to salute or step back. In the middle of it all walked Anya Kapoor. Her uniform was neat. Her eyes were sharp. On her left walked General Rana. On her right, Zara and Iqbal. The four of them stepped through the gate like walking into battle. Inside, the courtroom was full. High-ranking officers, journalists, young cadets who had watched her video, families of fallen soldiers, even some veterans in wheelchairs, all watching. The judge entered. Silence fell. Anya was called forward. Lieutenant Anya Kapoor, you are charged with insubordination, unauthorized data breach, and conduct unbecoming of an officer. How do you plead? She stepped forward. Not guilty. Gasps echoed. Then the judge said, General Rana has requested to speak. Step forward. Rana walked slowly to the center, looked around, then began. This army taught me how to fight, how to lead, and how to obey. But sometimes, silence is more dangerous than rebellion. I saw bravery in a man named Arjun Kapoor, and I see the same fire in his daughter. I stayed silent to protect my position, but she reminded me that truth doesn't wear a uniform, it speaks through action. He turned to Anya. I salute you, Lieutenant. And in that moment, the room froze. Every eye turned to the general's hand. He had just saluted a woman who disobeyed orders. A woman the system called a traitor, and then one by one, other officers stood and saluted. Cadets followed. Then veterans. Even the judge looked shaken. Anya stood still, blinking back tears. But just when it felt like justice might win aloud, noise shook the courtroom. A grenade rolled through the entrance. People screamed. Security rushed. Smoke filled the room, and someone grabbed Anya's arm and whispered, They're not done yet. The courtroom was filled with screaming, smoke, and chaos. Anya's ears rang from the explosion. Her body was frozen for a moment, then she was yanked backward by a firm grip. It was Iqbal. Move, he shouted as another blast shook the walls. Soldiers rushed forward, weapons drawn. Some guided the public toward the exits, others scanned the smoke for threats. Zara had grabbed an elderly veteran and helped him out through the fire exit. General Rana was bleeding from his forehead but still standing. His eyes searched through the haze and locked onto Enya's. Go there, after you, he shouted, coughing as the smoke thickened. Anya didn't hesitate. She grabbed the court file with all the documents, her father's letter, the operation file, and the evidence against Singan. Ran outside. A black SUV pulled up fast. Two masked men stepped out, scanning the crowd. Iqbal cursed under his breath. That's not security. That's them. Singh's private shadow unit, trained, deadly, and loyal only to him. Anya, Zara, and Iqbal darted toward the parking lot. Behind them, the courtroom sirens wailed. Rana stumbled out, blood on his collar, waving at a military doctor. Protector, he shouted to a nearby soldier, but the soldier only looked at him and turned away. That told Rana everything. Singh's influence had already infected the ranks. Inside the SUV, one of the masked men raised a gun. Anya and Iqbal ducked behind a cement barrier, just as bullets flew overhead. Zara screamed as a bullet hit the wall inches from her head. She fell, her legs scraped by concrete. Iqbal dragged her up. We need to disappear now, he shouted. A small delivery van was parked at the edge of the lot. Anya ran to it, threw the back doors open, and pulled them all in. The driver jumped, startled, but Iqbal flashed a military badge and growled, "Drive, now." The van sped off, tires screeching, bullets bouncing off its sides. Inside, Anya held Zara's hand tightly, trying to stop the bleeding. Her mind raced. That courtroom was supposed to be the place where truth spoke loudest, but instead it had become a battlefield. They tried to kill everyone, she whispered, shaking. They're not afraid of the law anymore. Iqbal looked out the window, then back at her. That's because they know the law won't stop them. Not unless we do. For the next few hours, they stayed on the move, changing cars, moving through back alleys, discarding phones, disguising themselves. By evening, they reached a safe house once used by an ex-soldier who now worked with whistleblowers. The place was hidden deep in the hills, surrounded by dense forest. Inside they found old supplies, a generator, and radio equipment. As Zara rested with a bandaged leg, Anya stared at a dusty mirror. Her reflection didn't look like a soldier anymore. She looked like a fugitive, but she also looked like someone who wasn't afraid anymore. General Rana arrived that night. He was limping, exhausted, but alive. He had escaped the chaos with help from a retired colonel who still respected the Kapoor name. They're calling it a terrorist attack, he told them. They're saying you planned it. Enya's mouth dropped open. What? They've issued an arrest warrant for all of you. Singh went on television. Said you were part of an internal sabotage group. He's labeled you traitors. Zara sat up angrily. So now we're terrorists? Rana nodded grimly. They're rewriting the truth, and unless we speak louder, no one will know what really happened. Enya's hands clenched into fists. We need the media. The real media, not Singh's puppets. Someone brave enough to tell the story. Rana shook his head. They've blocked major networks. They're calling it a national security matter. No journalist wants to touch it. Iqbal stepped forward. What if we don't go to the media? What if we become the media? Everyone turned to look at him. There's a live national broadcast. Happening in 2 days, Iqbal said. Military awards night. All commanders will be there. Even Singh. Cameras, reporters, live feed to the whole country. Enya's eyes lit up. We crashed the stage. Speak the truth. On live television, Rana blinked. That's suicide. Maybe, Anya said, but if we disappear quietly, they win. They started planning. Carefully they studied floor maps, security timings, entry points. Rana contacted old allies. Some refused, some hung up, but 2 agreed to help. One was Major Farouk, who had trained with Enya's father. The other was Captain Mira, a tech expert now working off-grid. They met at an abandoned outpost and loaded up equipment, 2 USB drives, hidden mics, ID cards. The night before the awards ceremony, Anya sat alone by a small fire. Zara joined her. "You're sure about this?" she asked. Anya didn't answer for a while, then finally said, "I thought speaking the truth would be enough. But truth doesn't speak for itself. You have to give it a voice and stand behind it." Zara nodded. "Then let's make them listen." The day arrived. The event was held in a massive hall with glass walls and red carpets. Uniforms shined. Medals glittered. Officers smiled for cameras. The stage was lit with golden lights. High command members sat in the front row, and Singham, proud, untouchable, stood behind the podium as the national anthem played. Backstage, Anya waited in a janitor's room with Myra and Iqbal. Rana was seated in the crowd, wearing a civilian coat. Zara was disguised as catering. Staff every second felt like thunder in her chest. Iqbal looked at her. "Once we step out, there's no going back." "I know," Anya said. Then the lights dimmed. The announcer's voice echoed. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our chief guest, Commander-in-Chief Devraj Singh." The audience clapped. Cameras focused. "Singh walked to the mic tonight. He said, We celebrate bravery, unity, and the spirit of this great army. In these dangerous times, we must stand together against those who try to weaken us from within. Anya whispered, "That's our cue." She stepped out from behind the curtain. Cameras turned. A hush fell over the hall. One voice shouted, "That's her." Security moved fast, but she was already at the mic, and then Anya spoke. "Tonight, you celebrate lies. You give medals to men who send others to die while they sit in safety. I know, because my father died that way, and I was told to stay silent." The crowd gasped. Singh shouted, "Shut that down." Rana stood and yelled, "Let her speak." Suddenly, Myra activated the broadcast uplink. Her voice went into homes across the country. "My name is Anya Kapoor, daughter of Captain Arjun Kapoor. He died saving innocent lives. But when he called for backup, the man you praised tonight, General Singh ignored him." Gasps filled the hall. Reporters started recording on their phones. Some soldiers stepped forward, then froze. Unsure, Anya raised the documents in her hand. "These are mission files, letters, proof, and this," she pointed to Singh, "is the man who called me a traitor because I wouldn't salute a liar." Security reached the stage. Anya shouted one last time, "We are not your weapons. We are your conscience. And we remember everything." A soldier grabbed her. The screen went black. Broadcast cut. But it was too late. Across the country, millions had heard her voice. The video went viral within minutes. And then from the shadows of the back row, Singh stepped forward, face pale with rage. He pulled a pistol from under his coat, pointed it at Anya. General Rana moved. A shot rang out. Everything stopped. The loud shot echoed through the hall, freezing every heartbeat in that massive room. Time seemed to stop. Anya's eyes widened as the echo faded into a tense silence. People screamed, ducked, and some froze in place, staring at the place where the bullet had struck. Anya's mind raced, but her body was rooted to the spot. The pistol clattered on the floor. General Singh stood frozen, staring at his own shaking hands. Blood seeped through his fingers. A man collapsed beside Anya, clutching his chest, eyes wide with shock. It was General Rana. He had been shot. Iqbal shoved the soldier, holding Anya to the side, and caught her as she stumbled. "We need to get out now," he shouted. The crowd was panicked, running in every direction. Soldiers tried to restore order but looked confused, afraid. Zara crawled forward and reached Rana's side. His breathing was shallow, but his eyes flickered open. "Anya," he whispered, "the truth must live." Anya took his hand, her throat tight with emotion. "We will, I promise." Security pushed her toward the exit, but she shook free and ran to the stage. She grabbed the pistol lying on the floor and held it high. "No more silence," she shouted. "No more lies." Some soldiers stepped forward, inspired by her courage. Others hesitated. Cameras continued to roll, capturing every moment. Reporters screamed questions into their phones. The hall became a battleground of voices and chaos. Outside, emergency vehicles arrived, but instead of helping, some blocked the exits. It was clear Singh still controlled much of the army. Anya knew they had little time. She needed to speak before her voice was silenced again. She pushed through a group of soldiers and reached the microphone. "This army was built on honor and sacrifice. But today, we see how power corrupts even the strongest bonds. General Singh tried to kill the truth, but the truth cannot die." Her words echoed beyond the hall, beyond the base, into homes, streets, and hearts. Suddenly, a senior officer appeared behind the podium. He raised his hand for silence. "Enough," he said. "We will hold an emergency council. No more violence. Let the law decide." The crowd quieted, but tension remained thick. Anya looked at Rana, lying weak but alive on a stretcher. She felt a fire ignite inside her, a fire fueled by loss, love, and justice. The next days were a whirlwind. News outlets debated the shooting. Military officers whispered in halls. Soldiers split into factions. Social media exploded with support for Anya and questions about Singh's guilt. Inside a secure room, Anya met with the emergency council. Singh was restrained, his pride shattered, but his eyes burning with hatred. The council president, "Stern woman," said Lieutenant Kapoor, "your evidence has shaken the foundation of this army. We must rebuild trust." Anya nodded. "We start by honoring those we lost because of lies." They planned a new investigation. Singh and his allies faced multiple charges. Old wounds began to heal as truth found a voice. Yet danger remained. Singh's network was vast. Some whispered that his followers were plotting to strike again. One evening, Anya sat by a window, watching the city lights. Iqbal joined her. "Do you think it's really over?" She shook her head. "No, but it's a start. And for the first time, I believe change is possible." Suddenly her phone buzzed. A new message appeared. "You have made your choice. The next move is yours." Anya smiled softly. "Then I'll keep fighting. For my father, for all of us." Iqbal nodded. "And we'll be with you." Outside, the wind whispered promises of a new dawn. But inside, shadows stirred, waiting for their moment. The city was quiet in the early morning. Anya sat alone on the balcony of the safe house, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea. The cold air bit at her skin, but she didn't mind. Her mind was busy replaying the last few weeks. The courtroom chaos, the attack, the shot fired by Singh, and the emergency council's decision to investigate. It felt like a lifetime had passed since she first refused to salute the general. Now the entire army was watching her. The weight of that truth pressed down, but she refused to crumble. Iqbal joined her, bringing a folder full of new documents. "We got more," he said quietly. "Proof that Singh's network is bigger than we thought." Anya took the folder, flipping through the pages. Names, dates, secret payments, orders to silence whistleblowers. Everything was there. "This will bring him down," she said, "but it also puts us in danger." Zara was still recovering from her injury, but she insisted on helping with the investigation. "We can't stop now," she said. "This is bigger than any of us." The three of them planned their next move carefully. They knew Singh had eyes everywhere, and any wrong step could be fatal. The military court had set a date for the full trial. It was a rare chance to expose Singh and his followers in front of the entire nation. But the court was also surrounded by Singh's loyalists. Every day, Anya received threats, anonymous calls, notes slipped under her door, even a broken window at the safe house. One afternoon, as Anya walked through a crowded market disguised in a simple shawl, she felt eyes on her. She turned quickly and saw a man in a dark coat watching from across the street. His face was hidden under a cap, but she knew immediately who he was. One of Singh's men. She didn't run. Instead, she approached him calmly. "Why don't you come and talk?" she said quietly. The man hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. "You're making a mistake. Singh's power is deeper than you know." Anya's voice was steady. "Then, I'll keep digging." Back at the safe house, Zara and Iqbal analyzed intercepted messages and planned a press conference to reveal Singh's crimes. They needed an ally, someone outside the military who could help the story go viral without censorship. That night, a message arrived from a contact in a major news channel. They were willing to air the story live but demanded proof and safety. Assurances. Anya agreed. "We'll give them everything." But she warned, "If we go public, Singh will try to silence us for good." The day of the press conference arrived. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and live streams began. Anya stood tall on the stage, flanked by Zara and Iqbal. She showed the documents, played videos of intercepted calls, and spoke with passion. The crowd listened. The nation watched. But just as she finished, an explosion rocked the building. Panic erupted. The conference was cut short. People ran. Smoke filled the air. Anya helped Zara and Iqbal escape through a back exit. Outside, a black helicopter hovered, its spotlight searching for them. Singh's forces had found them again. They disappeared into the city's maze of alleys, hearts pounding. Every moment was a test. Who to trust, where to hide, how to survive. Anya knew the fight wasn't just for justice anymore. It was for their lives. And as night fell, she whispered to herself, "I will not back down. Not now, not ever."